My childhood dream was to be an engine driver. So I was fascinated by trains. I'm still fascinated by trains. So if you look at my Insta Reels feed or Facebook Reels, you only get railways all the time. So one of the days when we were having, so my second child, younger one, Shubhankar, is extremely good at connecting dots. So he said, Papa, you're still doing the same job, I said, how? He said, the engine driver purpose is to take people from destination A to B. And instead of physically taking, you're taking them through emotionally or spiritually by your teaching.
Welcome to Inspire Someone Today podcast, a show where we dive into the stories and insights that has the power to create ripples of inspiration in your life. I'm your host Srikant, and I'm thrilled to be with you on this journey of inspiration. Listeners of Inspire Someone Today, welcome back for yet another episode of Inspire Someone Today. Imagine a mind that straddles ancient and the modern, a monk at heart, a MacBook in hand, and a message that challenges the way we live, lead, and pause. Srini isn't just a thinker. He's a disruptor of the rat race, nudging us to step back, reflect, and redefine success on our own terms. Whether he's decoding the Atman Ramayana for the digital age or crafting wisdom that cuts through the noise, his insights are as unconventional as they're transformative. If you believe that leadership starts with self-awareness and that silence speaks louder than the hustle, Srini is the voice you need to hear today. It's an absolute joy to have Srini be part of this episode of Inspire Someone Today. Welcome to the show, Srini.
Thank you so much, Srikant. So good to be here.
So glad to have you. Like I said in my intro, what caught my attention about you was a monk, a MacBook, and a message. Let's start with that, Srini.
So it is very interesting. So over the years, from maximalist to I have been moving to minimalist. So my friends around me have been, joking or pulling my leg saying, over the years, you are turning into becoming a monk. And then it kind of became a folklore among the friends and family. Also, I think probably there are too many Srinis around. So people wanted to remember who this Srini was. So they started storing my name as Srini the monk. So it kind of became a folklore in the circles. Here is Srini, who will always talk about spirituality and elements of spirituality. And I think that journey began around 10, 12 years back, and COVID only propelled it further. Now, interestingly, as much as people think I'm minimalist, I still have few indulgence, and that is where the MacBook comes in. So it's not that I have given up everything in life. No, I still have few indulgence. So one of them is my MacBook. There are a few others like that, which I still like. I'm a great fan of pens. So some of the costliest pens, I still have it. But the indulgences have been coming down. Message is very integral to me because I think we all come on this planet with a purpose. And our purpose is to make this planet better than what we got. And I think I can make this planet better than what it was by my ability to pass a message. So I think that is where my purpose lies in. So I've been a teacher for the last 27, 28 years. And throughout my teaching profession, either in schools, colleges, or corporates, I always try to leave that behind, a message which makes us more kinder, more purpose-driven. And then one fine day, that eureka moment or whatever you call it, all the three got connected and rhymed very well. So when I was writing a book, I said, why don't we rhyme it? I started calling it a monk or MacBook a message. And that's how the whole thing came in being.
So that was not a take on the 3M. This is a different sort of a 3M.
Absolutely. But yes, that 3M and this 3M has one thing that is common is innovation or reinventing. So I believe every day when we wake up, it's a gift and we need to evolve from what we were in the last to be a better one. So I think that evolution and innovation or 3M, that probably this 3M also tries to do.
Fantastic. While this is what you unearthed yourself in the last 10 to 12 years, you've been a teacher for the last 2.5 decades. But let me take you back much before that. when Srini, as you're growing up, did you even have an iota of an inclination saying that this is what you would be doing? What was your early influences? What did you want to do in your childhood? What were your early influences during your childhood? And how did this transition into what you're doing today?
So I don't know. Is there a connection or is there a force connection that I am trying to do? But my childhood dream was to be an engine driver. So I was fascinated by trains. I'm still fascinated by trains. So if you look at my Insta Reels feed or Facebook Reels, you only get railways all the time. So one of the days when we were having, so my second child, younger one, Shubhankar, is extremely good at connecting dots. So he said, Papa, you're still doing the same job, you know. I said, how? He said, the engine driver purpose is to take people from destination A to B. And instead of physically taking, you're taking them through emotionally or spiritually by your teachings. So I think that early influence of being an engine driver is still there, helping people to reach their destination in whatever form or it is. I don't know, it's a post connection or is it, instead of physically taking people, I'm not taking them physically, but emotionally and spiritually. But the earliest influences of me would be movies and sports. I think they've defined who I am. I'm a big movie buff. I see at least 100 movies a year. That's still part of my DNA agenda. So people ask me, why do you shut down evening by 4:35? You're off from the work grid, because I say I have books to read and I have movies to see. So reading is still big time for me. Movies is still big time to me. And movies, I still remember the first big movie that I saw ever was Star Wars. And I think Star Wars in that movie theater with popcorn when I was 7 or 8 has stayed with me. And that is what drives me still to think big, do wild things, because I was fascinated by it. So even today, I am extremely bold and ambitious in that terms. I would love to do something like Star Wars. In the Hindi movies, I think the biggest influence is still Diwar for me, because I'm still kind of arrogant like that character of Amitabh Bachchan. I still believe I will dictate the terms. So people do keep nudging me saying, you as a monk, you need to let go of that. But yes, that struggle is still on. But movies have been a big influence. Even today, movies are a big influence. People who sit in my classroom always have a smile. Think if you sit in Srini's classroom, he will only keep talking and referring movies. Sports has been a big influence, and sports taught me one thing which is still stayed with me is resilience. So sports taught me to never give up. So every time we would lose a match, I used to play hockey. So every time we would lose a match, the coach would come and whisper in our ears, tomorrow you have another game and you can cover it. So don't give up. And that has been the key till now. So I don't give up easily. So irrespective of the fact setbacks, you mentally prepared saying tomorrow you have another day. It's another new match and you have a chance to recover your loss from yesterday. So that have been the two basic influences. I've been never academic in my life. So people get surprised, but I've in my 10th, 12th graduation and I've got 2 masters. I never got a first class. So people get surprised and say, how can somebody be so, that he hasn't got a single first class in his life. But academics never was a priority. I used to always love learning, but I can't write back what has been taught to me. I would like to write it in my own way. And I think the CBSE doesn't allow it. CBSE expects you to write the way it has taught you. So academic has never been my priority, but movies, sports have been the biggest influencer for me.
That's a super force to have movies and sports. You did mention about you being arrogant. I call it as you being confident. There is that unbridled confidence in you that kind of comes up in lot many ways. The conversation that we have had in the past as well, what definitely comes out is that confidence. So where do you kind of, if you were to reflect back and say that, okay, what is that ammunition that is giving you this confidence that is oozing out?
Very interesting. I think because when you come from a typical South Indian middle class family, where dad was a government bureaucrat and where we were expected to be an engineer or a doctor and grow up. So my dad's ambition was to me to get into IS, and he was always confident that I'll get into it. But being the rebel I never wanted to fall into those, what we say, the traps of the typical South Indian middle class family. So when you don't want to be part of the system and you want to carve out a niche for yourself, one of the things that you realize is you need to come across extremely confident about what you're saying and what you're doing. Otherwise, people will never give you a chance. So many times, when I was young, much of this would be more of a bravado, even though I had butterflies in my stomach. But I would not showcase it because if I wanted to carve out a niche for myself, I had to do that. So when I started teaching at the age of 25 in IMS Indore, my first batch was people who were from the military background. So I had in a classroom of where all you had the age group of 45 plus with all stars and stripes, and they were my students. And here I was a 24-year-old, 25-year-old lanky kid with a ponytail in those days, walking into the classroom and trying to teach them principles of management. And the only way I could pull it off was if I come across into that room saying, I know what I'm doing, irrespective of the fact whether it happens to or no. So somewhere that has been that where you need to come across as confident and sometimes to the extent of believing in yourself more than anybody does. And entrepreneur journey only 45 days. So in corporate, you still have safety nets. But when you become an entrepreneur, it becomes you are the one who has to lead it from the front. And that is where it is. But I am glad when you draw that fine line between arrogance and confidence, because sometimes I still think, am I just confident or am I trying to or come across as, kind of arrogant, saying this is what it is. But I think as a rebel who wants to set his own path, or anybody who wants to set their own path, they need to have that tinge of, because with ambition, you need to have that arrogance to be able to succeed. Otherwise, you will fall into that failure very quickly.
And for some of the things like this, when you want to kind of step out of a standard template that's been set, you want to do things differently. And a lot of it has also got to do with the mental models. Mentors, coaches would be of great help. B is those mental models. You did mention that you got to believe in yourself. You got to have that kind of a confidence. What was your mental model, if you were to kind of share that?
So my mental model was very simple, was I can't afford to fail. And even today, that is the, what we say, principal driver. Because when you fight against the template or when you fight against the norm and you want to create something new, people around you warning you and ready to say, I told you so. So you can't afford to fail. And that is something which we need to keep going back and telling oneself. There is no option of failure. There has to be a plan B, or there has to be a plan C. And like I keep joking, you need to have even plan Z. Because if there are 26 alphabets, you can have 26 backups for your plan. But the primary driver is still that. Since you've broken the template, you're telling the world there is a different path. And the world is eager to prove it. There is no, and we told you so. So the mental model is that you can't afford to fail. And that's the primary driver, I guess.
It's a powerful mental model. Any early influences, Srini ji, dad, mom, or anybody within the family?
Okay, so there have been many of them. But there is one good or bad thing I don't know till yet. But for me, there is no singular role model per se. I pick traits from people what I like in them, and that I keep still doing it. So every person I bump into and I shake hands or say namaste, I'm a greedy person who will say, what is that one thing I can pick from this person which can make me better? And I do it even today. So I don't sit idle in the flights. I'll chat to the persons near me. I'll chat in the airport. I'll chat with people because that greedy child is still alive. Thinking, what is that one trait I can pick? So like, for example, I picked humility from my dad. People who know my dad know very well how humble he was. He was pretty successful in his life, but he was completely down to earth. And the complete reversal of that was my mom. So I picked ambition from my mom. So my mom is still the same old typical South Indian lady. She studied till 4th grade. and then there was no school in the village, so she stopped there. But then later on, she went on to learn English to Rapidex. She taught us in English medium schools. Even today, she reads at least 3 newspapers that come to her every day. And she is the one who told us to be bold. She is the one who told us to be ambitious. And she is the one who keeps pushing that drive us there. So there have been influences like that. Some of the greatest influences for me have been in my work life, if I may say. So my bosses have been I've been very lucky to work with some of the smartest bosses in my life. In my first job, there was this gentleman called Pradeep Doot, who was the founder of Videocon. So one night when we were there, he and me were there in the plant, and we were casually walking, and he saw there was a lot of dust accumulated on the TV sets. So there was a TV library. And he, without hesitating, he took his hand. He always used to wear white shirts. He took his hand and he started wiping the TVs. I was a naive 23-year-old. In those days, it was 1993. He was wearing a Louis Philippe shirt or something like that. And I said, that's such a costly shirt and you are wiping TV. And he sweetly looked back and said, do you realize this is a bread and butter? If you don't respect this, there is no identity left. And that was a powerful lesson for me. Even today, I go back and tell people, if you don't respect the profession in which you are, you can't grow. Two people like, say, for example, Utkarsh Palnitkar, who was in EY when I worked with Ernst & Young. He's the one who told us to be bold. He's the one who told us to take that risk. Because he used to tell us, if you don't take the first step, you'll never know whether you will succeed or fail. So just jump in and then swim with the tide. To my last boss, if I may say, in Satyam Hariti, an extremely ambitious person, but who taught me how you can be still kind when you're ambitious. Those little gestures which he used to do then, and now also after 18 years after we all left Satyam, he still has those little kindness that he does. So I think these are some of the traits that have influenced me to be who I am today. And each one of them, and they were kind enough to teach me, show me, and then, what we say, nudge me, cajole me, and, put me in that right direction. Today, if you ask me, my biggest teachers are my both sons. When I talk to them, I realize how the world is moving. I see how the world is shaping. And they are kind enough to show the mirror to me once in a while. And the biggest influencer is my wife. So because we both are more friends than husband and wife, we met as friends and then we got married. So she is the biggest critic. She is the one who will not hesitate to come back and tell me, hey, this is wrong what you are doing and this is not good. So there are battles that we fight. Sometimes you do get upset with her saying, what nonsense. Every time you have to see the negative in me. But she's been the positive stabilizer in their life who will go and, go back and say, you are too fast, too slow, too rude, too naive, too kind. So anytime that TWO adds before what I am doing, she's the one who neutralizes it. So I think these are the people who shape over the years. My elder sister who runs my foundation, she is the one who taught me how to be patient. Because I was never ready for the societal contribution. So she's the one who said, you need to have patience because you still try to run a foundation like a corporate. And she used to smile and say, it doesn't work like that. So these are the people who come, who teach you, who have been kind enough to teach me. So I always go back and thank each one of them saying, thanks for coming in and teaching me.
That's massive, that to have that kind of an ecosystem of influencers who had a role to play in shaping you up. And another influence that you are influencing people and you have been influenced by is Atman Ramayana. Tell us a bit about it.
So Atman Ramayana is a very interesting thing. So when you look at the definition of Ramayana, Ramayana is nothing but Rama's journey. And Atman is our own self journey. So my thing was during the COVID when I was reading Ramayana and I started reading more in depth. So Ramayana was always part of our life, but started reading more in depth. I was left curious saying around 14,400 years back, this gentleman walked on this planet and he left so many lessons of wisdom. So why aren't we following those lessons in our life? And why is it that we are missing some of those fine prints which Ramayana talks about? Then I started writing about it. Then I started giving one of those, what we say, guest lectures kind of thing. So interestingly, there was this lecture I was giving in CII Vishakhapatnam, so around 3 years back. And it was 1 hour of lecture on the stage, and I gave. And there is a dear friend called Meg Rasaldar, who's also of my same age. He's CHRO of a large multinational company. And once the lecture was done, he just walks up on the stage and touches my feet. And which was kind of, unexpected, unthought of, and I never get sent. And I was pretty shocked. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "You've been a lifelong friend, and from today you are my guru because what you spoke in 1 hour has changed my life." And then in the evening when we were all sitting, so there were many good friends like Rajita and others who all Shrikant. And they all nudged saying, "Ki, why are you not doing it more seriously? Why are you not taking it in a broader way?" And that's how the Atman journey started. So now it's a 3-day course. Typically, I do 4 sessions or 5 sessions in a year, where I talk about how we can learn from Rama and Ramayana and how we can make our life better. So it is all about balancing Kartavya and Karuna, leading to becoming Maryada Purushottam. And then as the journey started, now today I have dear friends like Shashi and Rishi who we all have joined. And we've also created a foundation which is trying to take these 2 schools and colleges. So the idea is to catch them young, influence them, saying how we can be more dutiful, how we can be more righteous in our conduct, and make this world a better place.
So in essence, it is a self-awareness journey. To that journey, you take in lessons from Ramayana and then incorporate it into our own lives. That's the essence of it.
Absolutely. So it is self-awareness and then going to self-transformation.
Self-awareness to self-transformation.
So awareness is obviously the key because if you are not aware, we'll never embark on it. And we also equip people how they can transform themselves.
So that's a very interesting subject, self-awareness. In a age where we are in constant hustle, how do you see this intersection of self-awareness and the need to have that hustle culture?
So I think it is very important for us to understand that when we decided to evolve from apes, we decided to become humans. And I don't know why we are stuck in this transit of being happy, being rats. So I always keep telling that we decided to evolve from apes to become humans, not rats. And today we are caught up in this rat race and we are constantly in that wheel all the time. So the idea of self-awareness is to be able to take that pause and reflect. Am I here in this life to only take care of the EMIs? Or am I here to do something more than that? And more than often, we realize there is a stage in life where we feel the vacuum, even after achieving everything that is materialistic or what pop psychology promotes us. And that vacuum can be only filled when we realize that contribution is more important than consumption. And that is where the self-awareness keeps running it. How much ever you consume, next day morning when you'll get up, you will still feel a vacuum. But when you contribute, next day morning when you get up, you actually land up being happy rather than feeling vacuum. Why? Because when you look back, that little thing that you've created or contributed is there. So I think self-awareness is something which we need to bring in. And the challenge is pop psychology will never want you to build that because pop psychology is built on the theme of consumption. So every day morning that when you on the TV or your mobile phone, it will always remind you how little you have and how much more you need to have. And that can be filled by objects. Whereas in reality, it cannot be filled by objects. So we all realized we were very happy, or probably we were more happy with our first job and first earnings than what we are today. Even the zeros have got added. And why? Because that awareness has gone off from ourselves. So self-awareness, I believe, is key. And for many of us, some of us are lucky that intrinsically we realize it. For some, we need to induce it from outside. And that is what Atman Ramayana and we are trying to do, helping people to pause and, get onto that journey.
So powerfully put, contribution is always greater than consumption. And for people listening, what are those easy steps to kind of look into to develop this self-awareness?
So I think there are 2 or 3 things we need to do. On a weekly basis, we need to spend 30 minutes just doing nothing.
You mean just nothing?
Nothing. Just reflect. How was this week? And what are those 1 or 2 things that brought joy to me? And what are those 1 or 2 things that I could have avoided doing it? And I think in that 30 minutes, when we start noting that, writing that in that reflection journal is the first step towards it. Because there can be no better person than ourselves who can give feedback to us. We don't need external people. We don't need external, interventions to let us know whether we are on the right track or wrong track. So that 30 minutes in a week is extremely important. Today, one of the challenges we have is we are not spending enough time with us. Like in one of the blogs that I had written some time back, saying, make way for the 25th hour. So the 25th hour is nothing but taking out that 1 hour every day, which is your me time where there is nobody around you. So it could be morning 5:30, 5 o'clock, you get up when there is no spouse, no child, no kaam wali bai, no doodh wala. Or it could be that night 10 o'clock when everybody has shut down and in their own world and you have your 1 hour. But when you make way for the 25th hour in your life, which is all about you and yourself, I think the self-reflection and self-awareness journey starts. Today we are afraid with ourselves. You get surprised with people. You'll see people don't want to spend time alone with themselves because they're afraid. So they will always constantly keep themselves busy doing something which is not at all productive. And then they'll go back and complain saying, I don't get time. If only I had time, I would have done so many things in my life. But I think we need to be comfortable with the idea of ourselves the way we are. Like one of the things I keep telling people, the day you accept you have flaws, the day you accept that flawsome is also awesome, is the day you will start embarking on that journey. Today, we don't want to spend time with ourselves because we are afraid that we will look into those flaws or those flaws will come upward and then we will have to answer for that. So I think that is where we need to do. So the simple way for me would be to take out that 30 minutes per week and you are on the journey.
I think as much as it sounds very easy, the very thought of sitting and doing nothing, no phones, time with yourself, what do you do? I think that is what will kind of push people out of it, saying, okay, this is not something I can do.
Absolutely. So I keep telling people, like, for example, my phone has been silent for last 19 years. So my phone doesn't ring. It's always on silent. And I keep telling all my loved ones around me and my clients as well that I check my phone every 2 hours. And in 2 hours, I'll definitely reply back to you. If I have to call, I'll call you. If I have to text, I'll text you. But those 2 hours of my life, I will decide what I want to do rather than the phone dictating. So today, one of the challenges is when you pick up that book to read or when you want to see that movie or when you want to do something, that blue light in the phone keeps tempting you and you get distracted. So one of the things that we need to understand is multitasking is a myth. Our brain has not been designed to do multitasking. So when people think they can do multitask, they can see a TV, they can eat food, and they can also check their email, they're not doing justice to any of the 3 things. So somewhere we need to be aware of that. Spending time with oneself is the best one can do. People don't do self-talk, and that is one of the biggest challenges I see. If you don't do self-talk, so it is like putting a pressure cooker in the kitchen and putting sellotapes on the safety wall. So the pressure is not going anywhere and someday the lid is going to blow. But when you do self-talk, when you appreciate yourself, saying today what you did was great, or when you go back and depreciate yourself, saying Srini, you could have done this better, you shouldn't have reacted like this. The language you used was not appropriate. That self-talk helps you to release the pressure from time to time. So we need to appreciate ourselves. We need to be critical of ourselves. And that 30 minutes helps to do that. So what you're saying is absolutely right. It wasn't easy for me also because it is there. But today I enjoy that solace.
What I think a powerful statement there is, don't get dictated by your phones. And I would want to kind of round up this particular segment asking you this particular question. You are wearing multiple hats. You are a teacher, you are a lifelong learner, a creator, a leader. How do you balance all of these multiple roles?
I think they're all integrated if you ask me. I'll put it in a very simple word. When I say ki you're a teacher, so as a teacher, it's very easy to go back and say ki what are the things one should do, one shouldn't do. So a teacher can take that high pedestal and go back and be very theoretical in nature. Then the leader had comes in and says, ki, but this is not how life works. Life expects you to compromise on few things. Life expects you to adjust on few things. So that brings the pressure on the teacher to be more practical. Thank you. Don't give some theoretical gyan and get away in the class, because people will go back and debunk it as soon as the class is over, saying it is not possible. The lifelong learner is the interesting aspect, because as a student, you're constantly learning new things. So that only makes the teacher and the leader to be more aware and more evolved from time to time. So I see all the three playing their roles in making it better and better. They are all interconnected. So many of the times my students walk up from my classroom and they are very interestingly, they will go back and tell me, that was one of the most interesting classes I've ever attended. Why? Because all the items or all the action items you told were very practical. At the same time, they're rooted fundamentally in theory. So I take great pride in the theory and science. I'm a purist that way. But the leader in me will keep telling me, don't be so naive or then don't be so theoretical oriented that people will not even embark on the journey saying this is too difficult, I will not. So I see all three of them interconnected.
And right from the time I started kind of following your work, reading some of the stuff, I have been a big fan of your blogs. Not only the content of it, but some of those very catchy phrases that you kind of introduced to your blogs. And we did touch upon a couple of them. I definitely want to kind of get your insights on this very interesting title of this blog, which said, "Fear is temporary, regret is permanent." How profound it is.
Absolutely. And I tell you why that blog came also into existence. I will, hide the names of my friends. But typically, you meet quite a few of your friends over the weekend. And after 2 drinks, everybody will say, I'm bored of this corporate cage. I want to quit this corporate. I also want to become an entrepreneur. I want to throw away all this. I want to backpack and take a 30-day tour to some country or to some mountains and all that. And they are so passionate and they're so realistic about it. Like you are all excited. You also say, yeah, let's do it. And come Monday morning, 9 o'clock, and they're back to their jobs. They will be like, busy with their EMI. And then next Saturday when you meet and you ask, what happened on that? And then they say, no, yeah, abhi time hai na, what is the hurry? And the underlying current is, I've always realized is that fear. And I always say that fear is temporary, but if you don't do at the age of 60 when you retire, and when you look back, you'll have a lot of regrets. And regrets will be there till death. So one of the things that people were asked at the time of death, do you have any regrets? And the people actually couldn't stop telling how many regrets they have. So I always believed it is better try and fail rather than not try. So there is no harm. There is no harm in failing. We need to remember that scars are medals on us.
Since you are a teacher, a lifelong learner, we'll start off with this as the first question. 3 book or podcast recommendations.
So the first one is basically Ramayana, because currently I'm reading Ramayana. So I would always go back and say, read Ramayana, either Valmiki Ramayana or Tulsi Ramayana, whichever you like. That is one. The second one is my favorite book is The Difficulty of Being Good by Gurcharan Das. I keep revisiting book all the time because that's a book that nicely illustrates what Dharma is all about and why Dharma is important in life. The third one, which is currently I'm reading and which is like, it is eye-opening for me because every page seems to keep me teaching something, is Krishna by Sri Prabhupada. I never thought this book will turn out to be like that. I just like the cover of it and I picked that book. But every page that I'm reading, it's a new learning. I think these are the 3 books I'll recommend to anybody.
Wonderful. Just to kind of highlight it out, the one of my all-time favorites has been The Difficulty of Being Good. And we were lucky to have Mr. Gulcharan Das to be on this podcast as well.
Oh, nice. No, that book has been brilliantly written. I always say, the first time when I read, I was unshocked. The second time I read, I was in awe. The third time is when it sunk in my head, what is that all about? And I've never read a book more than once. I don't remember, except for Ramayana, which I'm currently doing. Otherwise, generally you read once and drop it. But that difficulty of being good is like a recurring reference. Every year you pick and read few pages and again it opens up.
So in the famous lines of Steve Jobs, you can always connect the dots backwards. So giving you that connecting the dot backward moment, if there are 3 life lessons to your journey that you would want to recollect, what would that 3 life lessons be?
Okay, the first one is, like I say, we all have our own journeys and we should stop this comparison business. And I think that's the biggest life lesson I keep telling to myself and tell others. Because I always say in Ramayana also, what did comparison bring to Kaikeyi? Only grief. So Kaikeyi and Rama had the best of relationships till the day she didn't compare Rama and Bharat. So we all have our own journeys and we need to be aware of that. Like the famous example I keep saying, if you look at any cookery show, at the end the cook says, for salt, he will always say Swadanusar. They never prescribe how much salt to put. So I think we have our own lives and that is Swadanusar. That is the first lesson. The second one is we need to believe in self and we need to believe in our beliefs. Today we don't stick to our belief. So if you and I, if you look back at journeys, when you probably started your podcast journey, there would have been 100 people who would have said, don't do it. Who will watch it? Why should you do it? And if you get influenced by those people, then we would have dropped the idea. But somewhere we need to believe in our beliefs. I think that is one thing today's big lesson for me has been. The third one is, I think we don't have enough gratitude. And that is one big lesson I want people to remember that. Enjoy the little joy of life. The fact of the matter is today morning, my eyes opened up and I'm talking to you itself is a great joy. So we need to start enjoying these little things in life and not wait for something big to happen. That big anyway will happen. It's part of the journey, it will happen. But we forget the little joys, like how does the ice cream taste? Or how does that, the first excitement of having that popcorn smell when you walk into a movie theater, that still brings the joy. So I think these are the 3 things. One is don't fall into the trap of comparing. Second is believe in your beliefs. And third one is gratitude.
Awesome. Wonderful. So we always want to kind of go back and change something that has happened. But I would want to kind of change that script and say, if you were to give advice to your future self, what would those 3 pieces of advice be to your future self?
Well, that's interesting. That's also tough, I think. One thing I keep reminding myself is don't fall into the trap of being arrogant, because that is my big fear today. Because today I am reaching a stage either because of the good work I'm doing, or is it just because of the gray hair on my head? But people come back and give me all kinds of compliments. And that is one thing that I keep reminding myself, should not get into my head that I have arrived. So I keep telling myself that one should not fall into the trap of being arrogant. The second is, don't keep it to yourself. Whatever little I have, whether it is knowledge, wealth or something, I think I should give it back. I think that is something which is very, very important for me, which I keep telling myself in the future I'd like to do more. The third thing is, I would like to ensure that I always remain a student of life. Because I think there is no better teacher than life. And life is very kind enough to teach us every day. So somewhere I don't want to fall into the trap of not learning from life. Because every day people come into your life for a particular reason, I believe. It is not a coincidence. It is very well designed by divinity that every day somebody will walk in, show you the mirror and walk away. And we should be able to capture. So these will be the 3 things that I would like to keep reminding myself in the future.
Wonderful advice there, Srini. So you have been a constant learner. And for our listeners, if you were to share 3 micro experiments that they can do to nurture curiosity? What would those three micro experiments be?
I think the first thing has to be to always keep checking why. So why is this happening? Because once you trigger that why, then you will also, the second question that comes is how it is happening. Say, for example, stars appear in the sky only in the night. Then obvious question is, okay, how does that happen? And the third curiosity is, okay, what can I do in this? Is there something that I can do that? So I think the nurturing is that. And one of the challenges today we have is, I see that we don't have patience to answer why. As parents, as bosses, as people who are in the society. So today, if you look at why the current generation is struggling, is because whenever the child asks why, instead of answering the why, parents will give him a mobile and say, you play games on this, don't ask questions. And that is what killing the curiosity. But we need to nurture the why. We need to keep asking that. Like I always keep telling that phrase of mine. When was the last time you did something for the first time? And if the answer is more than 30 days, then you should get worried. Because 30 days is enough time for you to experiment and do something, or be curious to learn something new, or to implement something new. And that is what will keep the curiosity. So keep asking this. When was the last time you did something for the first time? And that will what us nudges to be better.
Wonderful. That's a great nudge, the why, how, and what of it. And a great question, follow up question. When was the last time you did something for the first time? Great. The last of the power of three round question here, Sriniji, is three practices people can hone to adapt a minimalist mindset.
Okay. Again, an interesting one. I think the first and foremost is we need to draw a pact with prosperity. So, like for example, how many jeans you require in your closet? How many t-shirts you require in your closet? How many shoes you require? We need to have that. So, for example, if three jeans are good enough for me, fourth one when comes in will only come in if I donate one of the three that I already have. So our closet sizes cannot increase just because we are accumulating things. So the first thing I always say is draw that pact with prosperity. You need a car, perfectly okay. But what is the purpose of the car? The purpose of the car is to take you from destination A to B. So which car will suffice, and do we need to fall into that trap of doing more and more or no? The second is somewhere we need to create space for white space, I always say. So it could be a simple PowerPoint presentation you're making, or it could be the way you're decorating your cubicle in the office, or the way you're keeping your drawing room. Can you ensure that there is 75% space left for white or blank? And you will realize we can always do that. So today, one of the challenges is we believe it's like real estate, If I've got a 500 square yard plot and I want to build every inch of it, not realizing that you don't require every inch of it. So somewhere that is what we need to keep doing it. Do I really require all this? So use the principle of 75%. That will always help. It could be as simple as that even while eating food, the moment your stomach is full by 75%, you stop eating rather than eat and then start burping more and more. So I think these are some of the things that we can do. Creating space for others using the principle of 75%, and more importantly, having a pact with prosperity.
Wonderful. Srini ji, that was a great round of power of three. Thank you for sharing and giving some of those wonderful insights. So this conversation, I'm feeling at home having this conversation. But you know what at home I am referring to. So I would want you to kind of share your at home experience with all my listeners.
Oh, God. Oh, so that was a very thunder strike that happened. So I was doing a classroom session, and then there was this call which says there is an invitation from the president of Bharat to attend the 26th January reception at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. So first I thought it was a prank call, and I thought they will tell now, please scan this QR code and pay some money or something like that. And I just kept down the phone. I thought, why would anybody be calling me for that kind of a thing? And when the call came again, this time I was like, it had sunk in a bit. So I asked them some question and they said, no, it's not a prank call. It is for sure. So on 26th January, when I went to Delhi to the Rashtrapati Bhavan, the first feeling was like a small baby in a candy shop. And you are like awed by everything because you only seen on television, you're not seen in real. And you are meeting the president of India, you're meeting the vice president, then there is the prime minister of India, whom you are doing pranam, and he in turn turns back and says pranam. So for me, that is still the highlight. And then you are able to have one-to-one with people like Jai Shankar, Piyush Chawla, the head of armed forces. So it was a very surreal moment. And post the event, that is when the humbleness actually crept in. Okay, what was I doing in that August gathering and why was I chosen? I still don't know why I was chosen because there are people who are far more worthy than I am to be there. But when you meet all these people and when you shake hands with some of them and when you have conversations, it only made my resolve to do more for this great nation.
Feels like we are reliving that moment through your experience. Thanks for sharing that. And once again, congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
So, Srini, wrapping all of these things up, if I were to ask you that fundamental question, what's a life of purpose and fulfillment like?
I think the whole thing would be, can we, leave this world a better place than what we got? I still believe that should be the purpose of life. When I hear these stories from my grandfather or great grandfather, how they fought the Britishers, to when I listen to stories from my father, how they had to take license to listen to radio. I didn't knew that in the 60s you need to have a license to listen to radio in India. It still sounds very strange to me. But that is what the India was. To the India that you and I have seen at the time of liberalization. Meaning I never ever thought. So one of the days during COVID when we were doing the house cleaning, they found my diary. And my little son was looking at it and he was laughing to, all is out. Because in that diary, it was written in 1993 when I passed out for my post-graduation. The dream of my life was to have 2 credit cards in my name before I die. So people, when they look back, they say, what was that? I said, but in 93 in India, that was a big thing.
That was a big deal.
That was a big deal. So I think as a country, we are evolving. We have a history of more than 7,000 plus years as a civilization, but as an independence, we still have only 75 years done. So can we leave this country and this world a better place? I think that should be the purpose of our life.
So Sriniji, from the monk, the MacBook and the message to Atman Rama to the fulfillment of life, we have covered a whole 9 yards. Thank you so much for sharing your views, your thoughts on that. This show is all about creating ripples of inspiration. Before you and I sign off, what's your Inspire Someone Today message to all of our listeners?
So my only one small message is we all have the power to make others' life better. We all have that power, either through seva or bhakti. It could be as simple as that you can just stand there for 30 seconds and say thank you to that gentleman who was operating the lift for you. It could be thank you to that maid every day who comes and cleans your home. It can be thank you to your team members because of whom you're getting your promotions and increments. It could be a simple thank you to your parents for having gone through all your tantrums and still being there with you. It could be anything. I think we all have the power to make others' life better. So somewhere we have to move towards that. Today, I think one of the biggest challenges we all have is we have not using that power to the fullest. And we don't realize the simple things like doing the seva bhava of thank you can inspire that person to the next level. So the small little things, the power to inspire others is there with us, but we are grossly underutilizing that. And we can do by these small little gestures, we can do it. And that will be my only humble submission. You don't have to think of rocket science of donating 2% of your salary or nothing is required. All you have to do is just pass these positive messages to 5 people around you every day and you will make them inspired to do to another 5.
So very true. The power to inspire somebody It's in those two beautiful words of seva and bhakti. Seva for service or gratitude, and bhakti towards respect or devotion. If we can express these two lovely words in our day-to-day being, we can definitely create a beautiful world around us, inspire people around us. On that note, Srini, thank you so much for sharing your wonderful story, your wonderful journey with me and my listeners. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Inspire Someone Today. This is Srikanth, your host, signing off. Until next time, continue to carry the ripples of inspiration. Stay inspired, keep spreading the light.